Hello, Demon Slayers of Sanctuary. Drunk Robot here. So today I want to talk about dungeons, both regular dungeons and nightmare dungeons, sigils, current issues with these systems, and a few fixes I think would actually greatly help their gameplay. So let's cut to the chase. The current state of dungeons, and more particularly nightmare dungeons, are kind of broken right now. And while they're still a ton of fun, I've been enjoying them, I feel like there are some very easy improvements that could be made to make them way better. So let's start with a few of the issues behind dungeons currently. Starting with number 1, backtracking. Oh baby, you knew this one was coming. So this is probably one of the largest issues behind dungeons currently, and something that the community has been most vocal about. And while improvements have been made since the betas, which in the betas they were way worse, I still find myself spending way too long running back to get the next objective. To reiterate, this issue is most prevalent when you've completed the first half of the dungeon and you need to go to the second half, or you finish the second half and you need to go to the boss room. While I find myself extremely good at navigating these, I still run into this issue a ton. And a fix I have for this is extremely simple. Now follow me on this. After the first objective, and after the second if there's a boss room, spawn new enemies on the map. Isn't that crazy? Wow, crazy. Yeah, so in this fix, yes, it adds more density maps, makes them a little bit harder to go through, but for most builds, especially at the high end, most of us are just running past these enemies anyways if we want to. Or you can choose to engage and get the XP. I really don't see too much downside from this solution. I feel like this works the best to make people happy and continuing to grind through. A lot of our issues going through dungeons right now is finding loot. Having more enemies spawn in the dungeon kind of helps fix this issue. Obviously, I know some people will talk about, well, you know, they should just make all the dungeons linear. I don't particularly want that. I don't really need that. And I also am going to talk about some of this a little bit later that kind of touches on this point. So this brings us to our second issue, and that would be currently the death respawn system. What I don't understand is why was it changed from D3? Seriously, it worked fine and everyone was, I don't know, more or less happy. For those who didn't play D3, if you died, you could respawn on your character or at the latest checkpoint. And you'd have a few second windows if you did spawn your character where you couldn't be damaged, allowing you to get out of whatever hot zone killed you in the first place. And this worked fine. Current system in D4 is absolutely terrible, and often, because of the way I farm dungeons, I get booped and I find myself going all the way back to the start of the map, which is terrible. Come on, just put back the D3 method, at least in dungeons, right? I understand why it wouldn't work in other areas. You could even make it another option on death, add a button, just like in D3, to respawn a corpse or at the latest checkpoint, or even back in town if you want to, just like D3. I understand why in the overworld it would not be a good thing to do, especially PvP zones and stuff like that. Hell tides, it could be kind of nutty, but seriously, this worked for D3 and it's something we should bring back. So if you're wondering where I'm getting all the information about these complaints, I see them all over the forums, Reddit, Facebook, whatever. Also in a lot of YouTube videos where people complain about the different states of their current issues. I'm kind of put this all into one video and adding my own thoughts to this issue and what I think could be done to make this better. Which brings me to my last point, and that is repetitiveness. This is a complex issue to say the least, and something I mostly share a sentiment for, but also have reservations about. Personally, how I play dungeons is I do a couple sigils in a row that I enjoy. Once I'm full of loot, I go back to town and unload. I'll also mix in a Helltide or a Legion to keep things fresh, and largely I'm okay with this. But for some people, they literally do only the best sigils over and over again, which can be boring. And the best fix for this, and come here close, this isn't crazy, not as crazy as last time, but add more things into dungeons. Yeah, like more events, and not like those stupid wandering ghosts that I see in like almost every dungeon, but I mean more goblins, more butchers, or more things like this. One of the best part of PoE maps was the random activities that appeared in a map. Maybe a sigil could be invaded by a Helltide, with constantly spawning monsters on top of the ones that are already there. Or other boss fights from the campaign could randomly show up, like the Butcher. Or double bosses. You can add these modifiers to the sigil so people know what they're getting into, so you can kind of avoid that, oh, I didn't know that this crazy hard thing was going to show up and now I died to my hardcore character, wow, wow, wow. right? You can avoid this by adding all these modifiers into the sigil, so when you hit the sigil, you know what you're getting. It's going to say on the top, Helltide map, right? More Helltide bosses, right? Or double goblins, or double butchers, or this character shows up. These are things you can do. And adding to my last video, another way we could actually improve dungeons is have them be able to specifically farm certain items, have different sigils, have an increased drop chance for pants or one-handed weapons or something like this. This adds a incentive, a reason to do maps and a reason to search for maps. Oh man, I don't have this one I'm looking for. Well, I got to go do another map to get another sigil so I can go back and do this. This adds a direction in the game. And that's a lot of the issue with dungeons right now is they're directionless. Yes, we're working to getting better characters to grind with, but we don't have we're kind of like shooting in the dark. It's like shotgun blast trying to get our last pieces of our build put together, which makes the dungeon grind even worse, because like, oh crap, I just did 20 in a row and I still don't have that one item, and I have like no knowledge if it's gonna show up next time. Like, even if I had that slim chance it was gonna show up, it would make the grind just ever so slightly easier. And the last little part of this I want to talk about, and again, it has to deal with repetitiveness, which is ironic because the main issue with this system was it was repetitive. And yeah, I'm suggesting it. We need to bring back rifts, Nephilim rifts and greater rifts, or some sort of system like this where we could, you know, have a completely random generated map. As weird as it is, that is actually fresh because it's different every single time. Yeah, they get boring after a while. I've done thousands of them, but it is something we can do in between the grind. And maybe it's like, oh, well, I don't need anything right now. I just need XP. I could pop into a greater rift, Nephilim rift, yada, yada, yada. Maybe you can have some specific items, specific drops, make it part of the Tree of Whispers to do one of them. You could easily add this sort of system in and make it work for this game. And it gives us just something else to do in endgame, which is a large part of the issue that we're having with dungeons right now is that is endgame. That is it. Especially if you're 80 to 100, you need to be doing sigils, and there's not a lot of else that you can do. My current character, well, I need like one piece, and I need to get my glyphs up. Well, guess what? I have to do dungeons. That is my only choice until I get to level 100 or get all my glyphs maxed out. So I'm stuck, you know? So that's all I got on the topic. If you have any ideas on this topic, please share them in the comments below. Maybe if we get enough of them, I'll make another video about the topic and try to actually cite who said what. I'll just save them and just tag you in the video or show your comment in the video, which would be pretty cool. I also appreciate you stopping by. If you could kindly smash that like button, maybe even sub if you didn't hate it that much, it would be greatly appreciated. Well, that's all I got. So Robot out.